Hi, it's Alex Counts again. I'll be talking today about public speaking for nonprofit leaders, second in a series. But before I do that, I just want to bring your attention to my book, When in Doubt, Ask for More. It has 214 of my top techniques around nonprofit management and leadership and just coping with everyday life. So I really encourage you to take a look at it. A foundation executive wrote to me yesterday and said, when in doubt, it was so clear and easily digestible, I think it will be my go-to gift when any of my friends or coworkers are promoted into a management position. And a lot of the items in there is about public speaking or about other topics too, like fundraising, for example. So check it out. In becoming a great public speaker, one of the things I'd advise you is to study other nonprofit leaders who speak well. When you attend their speeches, don't get depressed that you're not as good as them, or just don't be simply impressed by them, but figure out what they're doing that works. Now, in my last video, I talked about some things not to do. Each of them pretty much will tell you also something to do. For example, I said don't read from a script. Well, what you can do is speak extemporaneously from an outline. So I won't go into all those, but you can derive the things to do from that video. But let me leave you with some other ones. First of all, the core of a nonprofit leader's speech will often have three parts. One is telling people or reminding people why the issue you're working on is so important. And if the people you're talking to already believe that, still take some time to make them believe it even more strongly. You know, they talk about preaching to the choir as something not to do, is unnecessary, but there's a reason that you preach to the choir, because people that believe in what you believe, making them feel it more deeply is extremely important. Number two, why your organization's strategy or track record, if you have one, makes you an important player in addressing this problem, makes you highly capable of making this problem be reduced, if not go away. And then third is asking people to join you. How can they help you apply your strategy and track record to this issue that now that they believe is even more important than it was when you started speaking? So those three parts, working them in different ways into your talks, extremely important, because again, you're trying to motivate people, convince them that you're capable, and then tell them how they can help you, if only through a donation or volunteering. Now, another thing is some people will tell you that in your speeches, in your articles, use data. Data is the only valid way of convincing people. Others will tell you that it's stories. My approach is you need to combine them both. As one of my graduate students once said, that stories are the chip that delivers the dip. And I thought that was a very apt way of explaining how these two things depend on each other. Telling data and stories that kind of get the mind, the imagination to a point where it can imagine a problem being solved. Those are very important things that complement each other. Tailor your remarks. One of the best ways, you want to give the audience the impression that you're not just giving a canned speech, even if it's semi-extemporaneous. One way to do that is to refer to something that happened earlier in the day, earlier in the proceedings, and something that a speaker mentioned maybe an hour ago that you couldn't have put in your speech if you hadn't been there, if you weren't kind of going with the flow of the day. And that points to another success strategy, which is if you're giving a speech at a conference, arrive an hour or two early to get the kind of vibe of the group. What are they looking for? What do they react well to from a speaker? And then alter what you're doing based on that. Now, if you're speaking and it's a very high stakes speaking engagement where you really have to do well, don't go to a script, but practice your extemporaneous remarks. Practice what you're going to say based on an outline, and you're going to find that certain ways of saying certain things just roll off your tongue better, make more sense, and just practice maybe for an hour or two to just get the wording right. On the other hand, if it's a low stakes speaking event, there aren't a lot of people who can really help you, for example, in a new way. Then try some new ideas and then see how they react, and if they go well, then you can move them into more high stakes speaking engagements. Finally, when you end your speech, a lot of times people will want you to introduce the next speaker. You should do that, but first and foremost, have a formal end to your remarks, usually just by thanking the crowd and then being silent. It allows them to give you a round of applause if they want to, and acknowledge you for whatever you contributed, and then you can pick up your ceremonial role introducing the next speaker or whatever. So good luck applying these. I'll be coming back next week with another video on public speaking for nonprofit leaders.